Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Once again, we're working on the 67 Dodge Dart. Today, we're going to change this radiator out. We got a new one. We've put an electric fan and fan shroud in. While we're at it, we're going to change the water pump. Might as well put a new one in if we're changing the radiator. Change the upper and lower hose while we're at it too. And I think I have a new thermostat and thermostat housing for it. So basically all of the cooling system from the block forward we're going to swap out. Let's get started. You need to drain your radiator. There's a petcock down at the bottom. This little guy right here. You can open it up. The other option is just pull the lower radiator hose, but we'll try to do it properly this time. If you pull the lower hose, it's hard to stop the flow. This way I can stop it. Just using like a gallon coolant jug here that I cut the top off to catch the coolant, so the system should hold more than that. Now, to get it to flow faster, we need to let air in through the top. In case you were unaware, ethylene glycol, which is this green kind of antifreeze, is extremely sweet. It's also extremely poisonous. So don't leave it on the ground. Animals will get to it, kill themselves. We don't want to do that. If you do spill some, wash it off with a hose or something. Since it's not going super fast while it's draining, I'll pull off the upper hose here. And in fact, I can probably take this thermostat housing off, take the thermostat out, and work on getting the fan belt off as well. There's my thermostat. If you missed why that's like that, take a look at the video up here. Now we're going to pull the radiator out. I've already got the upper hose off, so I have to pull the lower hose off down there. Then over here, we've got mounting bolts, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, 1 down there and 1 right here. And then the whole radiator, I'll be able to just grab it and pull it up out of the car. All right, now that we've got the radiator out, we're going to take the fan off. Once we have the fan and pulley off, then we can take the water pump off. I went to pick up the radiator and this just fell off. It's worth noticing though. See here on the side, it's got 2 ribs here. That means this actually has 2 rows or 2 cores in this radiator. So the old one is a 2-row small radiator. And that is supposed to be attached. Here's another interesting point I just noticed. These lines are for the heater. So hot water comes out of the pump, goes over into the firewall, into the heater core, and then returns. Now you may notice there is no way to shut that off. So right now, it's going to be pumping hot water into the heater core and back out all the time. Which explains why it gets really warm in this thing, especially in the summer. Typically, there's a valve in this that has a cable. On something this old, it'd be a cable. Something newer, it might be vacuum operated or even electronic, but that runs back to the heater controls in the passenger compartment, and that lever actuates this valve, letting it shut off the flow of that water. I'm going to have to address that while I'm here. I might just take 1 hose, run it out, and then back in. Means that the heater won't work, but this is not a winter driving vehicle, so for a temporary fix, that's a valid thing to do. All right, we're getting more apart. Here's the water pump on this. Got to take off these bolts and then these two hoses that go to the heater. Actually, I guess this one goes over to the heater core. This one's a bypass that runs up to the head. All right, laziness is going to take over now. P.S. This is a wet bolt. That means it goes into the water jacket, and so water above that bolt, so in the head, is going to drain out that hole. One thing to note on a Slant 6, this little bypass hose, you want to put the new one in on here before you put that pump in. Always do a sanity check, make sure the old one looks like the new one. This one's got more impeller blades, it's a higher flow. But otherwise, looks correct. The bypass hose goes from here up to the head. It's just a piece of 3/4 inch heater hose. So you just cut a chunk, same length as the old one, put it on, clamp it down. Make sure you use a scraper and get all of the old gasket material off of the surface here and the surface for the water or the thermostat housing. And wipe down, make sure you get it relatively clean and dry. It doesn't have to be spotless where you can eat off of it or anything, but if it's clean and dry, it's going to help seal. I am going to use some RTV on this, but very little. Be not liberal, don't be slopping it on there. It's not creating the seal, it's just holding the gasket in place. Always put the RTV on the piece that you take off, not on the motor, because that way if you have to scrape, if you take it apart again, you're not scraping on the motor, you're scraping on this part or just throwing this away. Well, I don't know how much of that I recorded or missed, but got to get this pushed all the way up onto this nipple here. Then it's got the plate and 2 gaskets on this. You got to align them, get the holes in. This wet hole here, I have a little bit of silicone on the threads. But otherwise, we're just reassembling the way we took it apart. So it doesn't get forgotten, we'll do this hose clamp now. Brand new thermostat, and even a new housing because it was like $8. Again, I'm going to use RTV, but just a little bit. And on the piece that comes off the motor, not on the motor itself. This part of the thermostat points away from the motor, so into the housing. Well, that qualifies as I should have thought about that before I did this. Doesn't clear. When I made this one, I forgot to measure from here to the pulley. And one of the reasons that you always see 2 instead of 1 is because the pulley hits right here. I should have measured it. It was stupid on my part, but that's all right. Gives us an opportunity to do things twice. So here's the new one. Obviously I don't have fans on it, they're on their way. But what I did is I made it a little bit different. Instead of running a bead with the bead roller here, I've got a little bit different. You can see it bevels down, and that actually lets it sit against this lower part of the radiator. In fact, this one is about a ½ an inch longer this direction. Up at the top, instead of having a bead, I doubled it over, but then I angled it up like this. And that break all the way along here gives it some rigidity. So now I'll just put on 2 fans, but I'm waiting for them to arrive. Probably here and here, not sure. I also don't even know what size. I'm going to go the largest I can. It'll probably be 2 different sizes, 12 and a 10 maybe. I think I've got a 7 or an 8 coming too, so we'll figure it out. Here's another example of how the direct fit of this radiator is bullshit. The upper is fine, this mounting point here, but the lower, you can see this bolt right here. This is the factory one, but where the flange is on the radiator, I need a bolt up here. I just have this as in a temporary. I'm going to take that one out, clean it up because it's got that bigger washer on it, and move it up to here. Unfortunately, factory has this cage nut that's captured here, which I'm not going to be able to really reproduce, which sucks. These allow you to not have to put a wrench on the backside. I'm going to have to put a nut on the backside. I'll use a nylock, but that means that I've got to use a wrench on the back. Fortunately, you can reach up underneath the bumper here, get a wrench on it pretty easily. Still, pain in the ass. Really wish it was an exact fit like it said it was supposed to be. You can see that fits a lot better. That pulley has clearance there. All right, let's continue on. Get some hoses on it, get it filled with coolant, start it up. We filled it up with a 50-50 mix of coolant and water. We'll put the cap on. Obviously, I have not wired up the fans yet. That'll be another video. Otherwise, we're done. Thanks for watching.